3D printing is the future. But just in case you have no idea what I'm talking about, let's dive in to what 3D printing is. 3D printing is part of a process known as additive manufacturing, where something is created by adding material layer by layer. In past years, 3D printing was used for manufacturing parts for airplanes, cars, and other things faster and cheaper than other means for big companies. Now, 3D printing is being brought to schools, businesses, and even homes using consumer-friendly, smaller 3D printers. Now, let's answer the question, is consumer 3D printing worth the cost? To answer this question, we first must look at the process of 3D printing. First, you need to design what you want to print. To do this, you have two options. Find something online through a website like thingiverse.com. This website lets you search for anything that a community of people have made and uploaded to the website. You can download this and then move on to the next step. The alternative is to design it yourself. To design a 3D object, you can either use a less advanced website like Tinkercad, or you can use a more advanced software like Fusion 360. For now, let's focus on Fusion 360 because it's more advanced. We aren't going to go over how to use Fusion 360 just because there are so many things you can do with this software. Once you have designed your 3D object in Fusion 360, you will export it to a 3D slicer. For this example, we will use Kira. Export the 3D object to your downloads file on your computer. Then import it into Kira, the 3D slicer. Then change the orientation of the object to best fit the print. Next, change your settings to how you want them, and press Slice. The software will slice the object, which is just changing the 3D object to code for the 3D printer to follow. Once the 3D object is sliced, you download the G-code to a microSD card. You use a microSD card because that is a slot that the 3D printer has. After that, you insert the microSD card into the printer, select the print, and press Print. Some prints take longer than others. The one you saw the design of and that you see printing now took 3 whole days to print, a week to design, and is now done. There are limitless things that you can design, find, and create with 3D printers. Now that you know how the 3D printing process works, let's look at some 3D printers. The cheapest 3D printers you will find are made by the company Creality 3D. Creality 3D is a company that had a lot of engineers come together to design the cheapest, most functional 3D printer. The cheapest and best quality 3D printers on the market are the Ender series. The two we will be looking at are called the Ender 3 Pro and the Ender 5 Plus. For starters, let's look at the Ender 3 Pro. It is $209, and its specifications are as follows. It has a 220 by 220 by 250 millimeter size build plate. Its printing speed is 30 to 60 millimeters per second, and it has a knob to interact with the 3D printer. Next up is the Ender 5 Plus. It is $579 and has a bigger 350 by 350 by 400 millimeter size build plate. Its printing speed is 60 to 180 millimeters per second, and it has a touchscreen to interact with the printer. It has a new feature called auto leveling, where the Ender 3 Pro, you would have to do it manually. The Ender 5 does this with the assistance of the BL Touch attached to the nozzle. So, to summarize, the Ender 5 Plus has a bigger build plate, faster printing speed than the Ender 3 Pro, and new features. The only downside to the Ender 5 Plus is that it is more than double the price of the Ender 3 Pro. Since today we are looking at if 3D printing is worth the price, we are going to dive deeper into the printer with the better specs, the Ender 5 Plus. This consumer 3D printer has a bigger build plate than some industrial 3D printers, like the CR10. This is impressive because those printers can make plane and car parts. The Ender 5 Plus has such a big build plate that the only limit is your imagination and your design software. You can print and make anything that you can design or find online. The only cost is the filament, which is called PLA or polylactic acid. The PLA filament is the material the 3D object will be made from layer by layer. You can get filament for cheap that is good quality, or you can get it for a slightly higher price and better quality. It can also be a different type of filament, like a malleable filament or a glow-in-the-dark filament. The average regular spool of filament costs about $20, is 2 kilograms, and will get you through about 20 prints depending on their size. So, instead of buying something that costs $4, like this wrench I found on Amazon.com, you can print it for less than $1 in about 3 hours. That's faster than any delivery service and cheaper. Sure, the printer costs a lot, but if you print enough, it is a very good investment. Let's say you're working on something, and you need a certain size tool. Well, you can print whatever size wrench or tool you need, and it won't cost you much. If the stores you need the tool from are closed, it wouldn't matter because you can print at any time. Basically, you can print and design anything you want or need at any time of day. With the wrench example, you could just search the website Thingiverse instead of designing it yourself. Then, choose the wrench that you want. And download the files. Then, throw it into Cura, the 3D slicer from earlier, hit slice and export it to the 3D printer. The only downside is that you have to wait for it to print. Hours later, you have a wrench and can use it on your project. There are so many other applications for 3D printing that we can't go over all of them today. But one more application that has been used recently is in Ukraine. According to Joseph Prusa, they are making medical prints like casts, finger splints, wrist braces, and more. Some non-medical prints they are making include this technology to look around corners. It consists of mirrors, rubber bands, a pole, and 3D printed parts. It can give an advantage without being spotted. One other thing the Ukrainian military is using 3D printing for is parts of weaponized drones. According to CTV News, one of the main components of the weaponized drones are 3D printed canisters placed under the drone itself. These circular containers house explosives complete with smaller exterior holes that are typically filled with shrapnel. The entire device communicates with a ground station to drop the canisters up to a maximum range of 45 kilometers. Now that we have some real-world applications, hopefully you have a better understanding of what 3D printing can be used for. But you can also print fun stuff, like this infinity cube. Not everything has to be a real-world application. Sometimes it can just be for fun. 3D printing has a massive range of things you can find and print, and it is relatively cheap to buy the filament that creates the object or print. So, to sum it up, the Ender 5 Plus is the best, biggest relative to its price, and fastest 3D printer you can buy. It is $579 for the printer and $20 per spool of filament to print an unlimited number of things from online or from your own brain when you design it. Anything you can imagine and have the skills to create, you can have a PLA version of. A 3D printer gives you the capability and access to what you need to print things for cheaper than what they cost at any store. The prints have functionality and have more reliability than something, let's say, from the Dollar Tree. The only limit to what you can create is your imagination. And of course, the size of the printer. A 350 by 350 by 400 millimeter area in the case of the Ender 5 Plus. In conclusion, 3D printing costs less than actually buying what you are looking for. Therefore, 3D printing and 3D printers are worth the cost. From drone attachments in Ukraine to tools and fidgets in the US, 3D printing has many applications in the real world and for just having fun. You can create anything as long as you put time into it, effort into it, and use your imagination. Thank you for watching.